Hello all, this is Zeeebo and this is my official unique hero tier list. No trolling this time. So I'm gonna do this tier list with my personal in-depth analysis, and I'll be analyzing the heroes based on both the PvE and PvP format. So since the tier lists have a lot of details, I'll be speaking for most of this video and I hope you all like my voice. Yep, so without further ado, let's start with the two most powerful units in the game, and they are Marina and Bari respectively. So let me just explain this tier list a bit. So the position whereby the units are placed in this tier list doesn't really matter. So I won't say okay this unit is better than this unit to the right or this unit to the left, etc. Just overall which tier this unit actually belongs to. So for Marina, right, she actually has one of the highest stats in the game, right? Very high attack, first in defense and HP. So great unit stat wise. Her skill has freaking big AoE, right? This allows her to do a substantial amount of damage, and her body buff being a universal plus HP combined with her chain skill, which is also universal because you can chain with anyone, this allows her to synergize very well with just about any team. Okay, your melee team, water team, range team, hybrid team, any team, you know, she can fit in. So in terms of PvP, her AI, right, in case some people don't know, actually allows her to target the back lines if you place her correctly. So what this means is she can actually dash to the back line to disrupt and kill the main DPS sources. But you know, against Bari might not be a very good idea. Yeah. And her weapon skill actually denies any attempt of full melee team being in top meta. Reason is simple. Crowd around Marina and her weapon skill will kill all your units. Yeah, that's how powerful her weapon skill is in Colosseum. So in terms of Arena, right, she might not be as powerful as she used to be because, you know, there are a lot of powerful units being introduced like Bianca, Oghma, but she's still top tier definitely. Reason is very simple, because she's just so versatile. Her attack is quick with little disruption, and her weapon skill is very easy to land and just overall does shitload of damage. And the additional plus defense buff is super good on her. Permanent plus 30% defense is no joke, right? And yeah, so you can just see like how well-rounded she is. She can do damage, she can tank, she can adapt to situation, you know, using her hooks and stuff. And recently there's actually a new way to use her in Arena, right? The Silence Marina. So this just shows like how flexible she is as a unit. Therefore I put her in the SS tier. Okay, now moving on to Bari. To be really honest, there's nothing much to be said for her because you simply see her everywhere in Colosseum and Arena. Reason is simple. Bari does the highest DPS inside the game, and her skill, or rather her normal attack, right, is just insane. Insane AoE, insane damage, and insane range. Just imagine you yourself running around the whole like Arena map, right, trying to dodge her attack. Suddenly her charging spirit bomb just lands around you and hits you at the edge of her attack. That's how crazy big her AoE is. Like you can't really predict when her attack will hit you, and that AoE is so big that sometimes even at the edge of it, you will still get hit being a like, you know, full damage. Just being hit by her without you knowing, you know, where her attacks are coming. So there's the other reason why Bari is so good is because her buffs plus skill damage, right, is one of the better universal party buff. Yeah, it's one of the stronger universal buffs out there. And also just because of how strong Earth element is, right, as a whole, because of their strong unit, which is Bari, Tiana, and also their strong rare units like Alba and Craig. Like this just sort of like elevates Bari to the next level, being like top meta in PvP. And in PvE, right, there's a lot of like maps, a lot of PvE content that requires you to do a lot of burst damage, and Bari is just the one for the job. Simply put, she is the highest damage unit. If undisrupted, she is the strongest unit in terms of damage, and she's actually pretty decently tanked as a range unit in comparison to other units like, you know, Rachel, Tiana, Arabelle. She's decently tanked. She's just a super strong DPSer, a super strong counter to Marina, which is one of the best units in the game, and also Earth meta is the thing now, so yeah, that's why she's super strong. SS tier definitely. The next unit that I'm going to talk about is Eugene. So in case you haven't seen my How Worthy is Eugene video, right, you can go and see it. It's in the How Worthy series playlist. Eugene is just in general a very well-rounded, very versatile hero which is able to adapt her playstyle based on who she matches with. In terms of PvE, right, I personally don't like to use Eugene because her weapon skill is actually very hard to land. Yeah, like it's not like as foolproof as Marina's Armada weapon skill or even Bari's weapon skill, right? They are very straightforward. Hers actually moves as she launches the weapon skill, so it's very hard to gauge sometimes, and depending on situation you might be actually rushing into your death, you know, like just charging into the boss and dying. So that's one thing that I don't really like about her in PvE, but she still does a lot of damage and she's quintessential in your melee teams just because of how strong the plus melee damage buff is. 50%, it's 1.5 times your team damage. Like every hero, if it's 4 melees, right, is 1.5 times damage for all heroes. So she's pretty good at that aspect. In terms of PvP, right, Colosseum, she's okay, right? I've seen people use her in Colosseum and her weapon skill doing massive damage against different setups. But the thing about Colosseum is because it's so heavily dominated by Earth meta, right, not Dark meta. If it's Dark meta, Eugene will be like the queen of the meta because she counters the Dark team so hard. But the thing is, because Earth meta, she's not like the super Earth counter, so she's just someone that does a lot of like burst damage off her weapon skill and chain skill, so like she might not be that strong in terms of Colosseum, but definitely top tier if you manage to build a good melee team around her. Then the thing about Arena is because she's so versatile, different maps she plays differently, right? Because she can run, she can actually charge at you, and the reason why I say that Eugene is SS tier is because she can fit in any team in Arena. Like she's not there to counter anyone. I mean, she counters Dark unit, but she's not there to be like a Bari is to Marina counter, or even like Oghma is to a Bari counter, that kind of thing. But she's just super flexible, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so she can be used in any scenarios, and she's the kind of hero that's just high skill cap, based on the player knowledge kind. If you know the different matchup and you know like when to charge at the enemy and when to attack them from range, when to do your hit and run strategy, she's pretty powerful in Arena. Next is Nari. So Nari is one of the my favorite unit because I feel that her projectiles, right, that allows her to penetrate walls and terrains, right, is super powerful, and this allows her to perform on any arena maps just off that ability to go through walls and terrains. So other than that, right, her special ability allows her to get boosted defense. So boosted defense means that she can actually last longer. So she lasts longer to output more damage, right? Her party buff isn't that fantastic in my opinion, but it's really good if you're building a range team, definitely. So it synergizes very well in a range team, but other than that, her party skill is just okay, right? Her chain skill is good in the sense that it buffs crit hit chance. So if you are aiming to build a full crit team, Nari is also a must-have in that team because her chain skill sort of like increase your whole party's crit chance, and if you stack it with units like Aisha, where her EX weapon actually causes your whole team's crit chance to double when she hits a crit, then that's really very powerful. Yeah, so like Tiana, right, Nari can actually attack while she like moves, so she can move a bit, shoots, move a bit, shoot. So like there's not much delay in terms of her attack. And the reason why Nari is stronger than Tiana in arena aspect, right, is because Nari's balls can fly anywhere. Yeah, although it's dodgeable, but can fly anywhere. And like I mentioned in the Bari section earlier, like the omnidirection, the over terrain, and unpredictability of the projectile, right, is what scales Nari and Bari in the arena aspect. So at the same time, right, being a normal unit, there isn't really like a super meta dark unit. So like the climate for the PvP aspect, right, is very good for Nari. In terms of her overall usability in PvE, still very powerful, right, because of the range debuff on her normal attacks. So if you build a range team and you slot her in, she is a DPS / debuffer, so she plays 2 roles in a PvE in Colosseum as well. So the thing about Nari now is because range units are so overpowered, so building a range team, right, is like a go-to for most people. So she actually fits in pretty well in those range teams just because of her range buff. And being a normal unit means that she's not really heavily countered by some of the meta heroes. So meta hero means like Marina or Bari, like elemental counter, I mean. So in a sense, that 30% bonus is what makes a lot of difference in this kind of PvP aspect. So if you don't see a lot of strong dark units in the meta, Nari doesn't really have a super counter. Like that's why she's like balanced in a way. And the thing about Nari is, right, she's super duper good in hit and run. Like a good Nari player and a bad Nari player, skill difference is very big. The ability to gauge how far she should stand so that her balls hit the enemy, and also the knowledge to know when to go in and use your weapon skill is what differentiates a good Nari and a bad Nari player. I don't think I'm a very good Nari player myself, because my Nari isn't 5-star yet, but I have been trashed by Nari players at level 71 with their 5-star skills, right? So many times that I dare say, right, Nari will stay for very long in arena, unless like a specific unit is built to counter her, then she might fall off, right? But if not, just look at the rankings now. Like she's everywhere in the arena meta. Oghma is SS tier, no doubt. Yeah, he counters the queen of meta, Bari, and not just Bari, just any hero that does burst damage, right? But the thing about Oghma is I realized he isn't that fantastic in terms of the PvE aspect, because he doesn't really deal that much damage. And having used him in the arena run sometimes myself, right, I realized like you can actually counter Oghma by just running around and just draining his HP, because Oghma doesn't really do much damage. So in terms of that, like he's slightly weaker, but he's still very strong because his weapon skill is very easy to land and is homing, right? And being a dark unit sort of counters the normal units such as Nari and Lan, you know, if you manage to see them around. And the thing about being able to counter Bari, right, makes him a top tier unit, because if Bari is there, Oghma is there to control her. So that's why I put Oghma in SS tier, right, because he's a Bari slayer. He's good currently because Bari is in the meta, right, but he's not that good against Marina and Eugene and even Tiana as well, right? Even to a certain aspect, Vishuvac can actually deal with Oghma. So with that, Oghma is a hero that's currently in the meta, but could really change based on how the future situation is adjusted. So like if there's one fine day without any Bari in the meta, Oghma might not be as relevant, right, as he is now, because his main role now is to counter Bari. So without Bari, maybe not as fantastic, but it's hard to tell, so only time will tell how he will progress. But as of now, no doubt SS tier. So good investment, go ahead and put your resources in him if you want the Bari counter. With Arabelle, I put her in the S tier. So Arabelle deals an immense amount of damage through her auto attacks and her exclusive weapon passive. She's also very mobile with her special ability, and she's extremely effective in a mono dark team, right? and she does a lot of damage. Just a simple classic glass cannon kind of hero. But the thing about that is, being a glass cannon, she is really very paper. So like that's one of her core weaknesses. Like in arena, if you see a Arabelle, right, and she's chasing after you, you can just hit her back and she'll actually receive like roughly the same amount of damage. And the thing about Arabelle is her synergy, right, is only around pure dark teams. Right? You don't feed her in a range team, and I mean you can put her in a range team, but the thing about her party buff, it doesn't really benefit other members unless your other members are all dark units. So which is also a dark team, right, in that aspect. So not as effective in outside of a pure dark team, right? So poor synergy. She's just a unit that does a lot of damage. Her projectiles doesn't really penetrate walls or obstacle in arena. So like she's actually pretty kiteable in maps, right, with a lot of obstacles. Yeah, so that's what sort of like drops her off from the SS tier. If not simply off her damage output, right, she's actually SS tier, no doubt. Like she's awesome in dealing damage to bosses in PvP content. She does shitload of damage. But yeah, that's pretty much all that to Arabelle. So if you ask me, right, like will she be in the meta? Sometimes in and out, but not really like a must-have if you are like the meta chaser. The next unit on the S tier is Bianca. So Bianca is a unit that is good in PvP but not fantastic. So like some arena player will choose her over Marina because like they sort of serve the same role, but Bianca is less tank than Marina, so it really depends. Sometimes people actually use Bianca based on the maps over Marina because melee units are easily kiteable in arena. Then in terms of Colosseum, right, you don't really see her around because she doesn't have much team synergy. Like she's a very good if you are building a crit team, but the idea about a crit team now is very idealistic because there's no tank for that crit team, right? And if you are talking about crit team, Lupina, right, Akayuki, Bianca, right? So this 3 unit doesn't have much synergy. That's why the crit team is a very dream team or like a theory paper based team. So that's why she doesn't really appear often in Colosseum. She's fantastic in PvE. In fact, she carried me throughout my Korea server adventure because if you're able to dodge the bosses and kite and heal back, you know, you have a lot of sustain and damage output, right? Very good in PvE contents. Like your Kamazon, right? The recent release of Kamazon, like the emphasis of sustainability in your units, she's definitely SS tier. Like the reason why she's S tier here is because in terms of PvP side, Bianca is relatively weak, but she's a must-have if you are like the kind of player that focuses more on PvE content like Orbital Floors or even your Kamazon land. The next S tier unit that we're going to talk about is Tiana. So for Tiana, the reason why she's in S tier, let's talk about her strengths first. So she works very well in range heavy teams due to a party buff. She outputs very high damage due to her skill that applies a debuff, and she can attack and kite without hindering movement, similar to Nari. But the issue with this is her arrow does not penetrate terrain, so that's the limiting factor to her, right? And her default attack actually does a fan shape, so covers a very wide range. But the reason why I put her in S tier is because she's actually pretty paper. She doesn't have the inbuilt defense mechanics like Nari, so she's actually sort of like Arabelle, but stronger simply because Earth is in the meta. And her normal attack is also blocked by obstruction, so you can actually hide behind the box, and the Tiana player must like rush up to you to actually attack you because the boxers actually blocks her normal attack. And her weapon skill, right, requires a good sense of direction. It's not easy to land, by the way. If you have played against enough Tiana, you'll realize that her weapon skill tends to miss very easily if you are a heavy Tiana player. Like, you do need to know when to put your weapon skill. Although the weapon skill has very big AoE, but there's a very big tendency for it to miss as well. So this is one of the weaknesses for Tiana. In terms of PvE, nothing much to say. Like, she just does a lot of damage. So S tier in that aspect as well. So overall, just a good S tier unit. Moving on to the A tier list. I will put Vishuvac on the A tier list. Two simple reasons. Vishuvac isn't really good in your PvE content, and being a Vishuvac user myself, I sort of dislike the teleport mechanism because he can teleport to the enemy, right? But if let's say if he teleports into the wall, he cannot really teleport through it. Like, that's stupid. Like, I get kited around by these mechanics many times in PvP. And the thing about Vishuvac is Vishuvac's weapon skill, right, is relatively luck based because it's not a fixed I mean, it's a fixed percentage, but it's random. And Vishuvac actually does lower damage against fire units itself, even though there isn't really much fire meta, right? So technically her damage is still maximized, but her buffs, her chain skill doesn't really benefit your team unless you are building a pure fire team, which is not the meta right now. Then the activation of her passive, right, even though it sounds very fantastic, like that's a big AoE, but it's very RNG based. So that's why this drops Vishuvac's ranking, right, for me quite a bit, because I can't really use her in my PvE content much. And her sole purpose right now for me, right, is to deal with Bari. And I mean, she does a lot of damage, but the thing is, she's just not good for PvE content. Not good damage, right? Survivability not there because she's not that tank. At the same time, her weapon skill, right, can actually be disrupted. Because she does 3 charges, right? So maybe if she hits the first time, there's 2 other charges. So if your enemy is smart, stick very closely to the wall, they can actually play around this aspect and sort of like block your other 2 weapon skill. And her weapon skill sort of like brings her very close to the enemy. So too close for comfort for some bosses. She's fantastic in PvP. In the arena aspect, not really the Colosseum, although she's usable because people fit her in just to counter the Earth meta, because she does AoE damage and she's fire, so she does more damage against Earth. But the thing about her in arena is now that Oghma is released, right, I will see her sort of like drop a bit in terms of usage, because her initial role was to check Bari, but she doesn't really counter Bari per se, because if the Bari choose to kite Vishuvac and abuse the range strengths, right, Vishuvac is very hard to play. So moving on to the next 2 heroes in the A tier, they are Lan and Lupina. Sorry if I have some misconception about these 2 heroes. Number one reason is because I don't see these 2 heroes as much in Colosseum and Arena. So in terms of PvP usage, they have very low usage, but I have some guildmates that actually use them, like some friends in the game that actually use Lan and use Lupina, and they say that they have garnered good results. Based on the stats and skill descriptions and their skills, right, I would say that they are definitely S tier in PvE contents, definitely S tier, because plus crit chance for Lupina, right, means there is a universal buff, very high DPS potential, and Lupina's EX weapon actually has a very large cone shape, so very big AoE to clear the rooms with a lot of monsters, right? So she fills the niche of a long range melee damage dealer. But the thing about Lupina is that her normal attack is slow, so you can dodge it easily. And her exclusive weapon skill is very easy to miss because it's a wolf passing through the map, right? So if your opponent has very good spatial awareness, you can dodge that as well. And apparently I've seen it somewhere in one of the Discord chats, her AI sort of hinders her performance Colosseum. I don't know how it hinders, but if I'm not wrong, right, what I read before was that, like, her attack causes her to aim for the tank. So I'm not very sure. Might need some confirmation from Lupina mains, because Lupina mains are the people that actually use Lupina most of the time. So this part needs to be confirmed on Lupina main. But then again, personally, I don't see Lupina as much in terms of the PvP side. So if you ask me, I will actually put her in A tier for PvP, right? Although on the KR server, on the Korean server, there's actually this player that has been topping the arena charts with Lupina for quite some time. In my opinion, Lan has one of the largest potential to be pushed to S tier if, let's say, a better normal unit is introduced. The reason why I put Lan in A tier is due to the low usage in PvP. At the same time, other than Nari, right, which is a normal unit, right, there isn't really good normal unit that you can use in PvP and even PvE. Most normal unit kind of suck. Really suck. They are not that good, right? So normal as a element is weak. Like this sort of like bring down the amount of teams you can build with Lan. Like you can't really build a normal team because it's very weak, right? Although her special ability is really good as a healer, right? You can't really fit her in any team outside of a melee team because Lan is not exactly the tankiest unit. She's not a build tank, right? And there are so many better units out there like Bari, Nari, Bianca, Tiana to like outclass her currently. So in that aspect, right, in terms of team building, Lan is very, very restricted. Okay, in PvP, I did encounter a few Lan before, but I have easily trashed them, perhaps due to equipment difference or level difference. I'm not very sure, but she is a melee attacker, right? And being a melee attacker, you can actually kite her very easily, and she doesn't really excel at anything to warrant her S tier position in PvP, right? So let me repeat again, like Lupina and Lan, in my opinion, is S tier because most units are S tier in PvE contents. They do good damage, they do high levels of sustainability. But the thing about Lupina and Lan and in like the reason why they are in A tier, right, is because of low usage, and I really don't see how you can fit them around. Like they are just not flexible in team building, so it sort of restrict your resources into focusing into them. If you are like a free-to-play player, it's not very helpful. Like you want a unit that is universal, that can be used on many teams. That's why I put them in A tier. So moving on to the next unit, we have Puke Vice. So no doubt SS tier in PvE because she can heal, she can tank, she can do damage. But all this attribute doesn't really bring to PvP content. Yeah, don't use her in PvP, she sucks. She, like, fire is not meta. Like, there isn't really a fire team around per se. And if you're building a melee team, there are so many other better units to build around with, you know, rather than Puke Vice. At the same time, in Arena, if you ever encounter a Puke Vice and you have any other unit, you realize, right, all other unit heroes are able to beat Puke Vice no matter what. So that's why I dare say like Puke Vice is a A tier unit. A tier because she's SS tier for PvE, but she's terrible for PvP content. I'll put Eva in B tier. The reason is very simple. She's a support unit, and there are way better support unit in the rare hero section, such as Aisha, Coco. They do much more with much less resources, and in terms of PvP, right, support unit is not gonna bring much to the table in Arena, and in Colosseum there isn't really any normal teams around that can be backed by Eva, so she's B tier. The last unit on the list is Lapis. I'm gonna put her in B tier. Okay, 2 or 3 major reasons. Okay, number 1, okay, her attacks requires a bit of charging to actually reach the maximum damage potential, right? And she's relatively immobile as she charges up the attack. Okay, so not good in PvP context because mobility is one thing in PvP, and in PvE, right, sort of makes her start trying to charge up her attacks. Okay, and her body buff is blast like attack, so she actually has very poor synergy outside of mono like teams. And you know, like right now, light team isn't really a thing yet. The reason why she's in B tier is because she's just overall easily replaceable by all the other unique heroes in terms of her role. Like as a damage dealer, you have Eugene, right? As a tanker, you have Marina. As a damage dealer, you have better damage dealer, right? Bari, Nari, Lupina, Arabelle, they all do same amount of damage or even more, right? In terms of like PvE content. For people who have seen some of the Korean wheels use Lapis to counter Oghma, right? Yes, she's definitely a good one to counter Oghma. But if you are just investing in her to counter one unit, right, then that's not a worthy investment, because in the event if Oghma suddenly get phased out of the meta, right, then this unit becomes irrelevant. Okay, so that's it guys, this is my official tier list. for the unique heroes with as much in-depth analysis that I could provide within this short video. So perhaps let me know in the comment section below whether or not you like my tier list, and perhaps give me your feedbacks. So if you'd like to see more content from me, do click here to subscribe on the left hand side, and also below more videos for you to watch. Okay, see you around. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.